Every time we write into software like ChatGPT, Claude Code, Gemini, we get something which feels like it's thinking, full sentences. And it makes a lot of sense a lot of times. But the thing is that these large language models actually do not understand anything in the way that we do. Under the hood, when it's writing a sentence, it's just a probabilistic thing, like what token or what thing or what word comes next. So in this video, I want to walk you through exactly how a large language model works and why do I say that when they don't think like us, what do I mean by that? So let's try to understand how these models work exactly, right? So an LLM, a large language model, which is what this ChatGPT, Claude, everything is, it's nothing but a token generator. So what you do is you add a bunch of tokens, and we'll get to what these tokens and what all this stuff is. So a bunch of tokens go inside this LLM, and next token comes out, right? Not even like bunch of tokens. I will just say even at its simplest form, it's just a next token predictor, like what is going on. For example, if I write the weather today is, and then I leave for it, this machine over here is just a token predictor. It will predict what the next token, which happens to be a word as well, which I'll get to, what this would be. And that is all it's doing. And now we have repurposed this whole thing thanks to the software and the abstractions that we have built to create stuff like Claude Code and Codex and these things which feel like magic. But what is this process? Like, let's take a look at what exactly happens when all of this is going on, right? So see, when you actually write a sentence, let's say you are writing something like, can you fix this bug? Let's say there is some context already in the LLM, right? And you write this message. The very first thing that happens when this is called on api.claude.com or whatever, which is going through Opus 4.6 or whatever, the very first thing that happens is something known as tokenizer. And this tokenizer is something that I have discussed in so much depth. It is like a 40-minute video on YouTube, which shows me implementing a tokenizer from scratch inside TypeScript. So if you're a web developer, this would be very easy for you to understand this video. And this video is probably one of the most high effort videos that I have created. I'll link it somewhere so that if you want, you can watch. But it is one of the worst performing videos, right? So nobody really wants to learn how things work internally. But here I am again doing a similar video. Let's see how this turns out. Make sure you leave a like and comment if you want the algorithm to push this and for me to create such videos in future. But this video is there on YouTube, right? I'll link it somewhere. You could see it on your screen as well. This is a 40-minute video on how tokenizer works. So I'll not go into details of what this part is because I've already covered it. But the core idea here with tokenizer is that it takes a sentence like this one and it will convert it into a bunch of numbers, right? And these numbers could be big numbers, right? Depending on whatever your vocabulary is. Now, there are a few things, again, I'll have to get into a little bit of this tokenizer thing. But if you don't understand this, I highly recommend you watch that one video. It covers everything. These numbers are basically nothing but vocabulary, right? So you know that, in ASCII, for example, if you have seen ASCII, we have 1 to 128 as numbers. And then, 96, for example, 97 stands for like A or B, if I'm not wrong. I'm forgetting the sequence. But this is what number 96 is A, number 97 is B, and so on and so forth. This is what the sequence more or less looks like. Think of it in a similar way. But instead of these just being characters, these are complete, I won't even say complete words. These are just tokens, right? So for example, if you look at this sentence, it's possible that an LLM, which is trained and which has like a tokenizer of, let's say this word, VIDE and a space, right? So let's say if this is a token, it could correspond to this number, right? Now, instead of just A being the number 96, like we discussed, instead of that, LLMs work with much broader range of vocabulary, right? So they'll have this as one token. They might have A also as another token, right? For all we know, which is corresponding to some number, but they also have these tokens. So this is what the first thing is, that the sentence that we have is repeatedly broken down into a bunch of tokens. And then this token, this array of token is passed to the large language model. Because you have to obviously remember that at the end of the day, this LLM and all of these are like computers, right? They are not human beings. They can only understand binaries, 0 and 1s. So you have to at some point convert them into numbers, and this is where the conversion happens. Now the next step is interesting because once we have these tokens, what we do is we actually create vectors for them in the space, right? So in order to understand this, we'll not get into a lot of math, but I'll give you like an idea of how this works. Let's call this vector embeddings. So once we have these tokens, what we will do is we will map them into a vector space. Now what this vector space is, it's basically, think of it, in math class, all of us have seen like X, Y, and Z axis, right? This is X, this is Y, and this is Z. And if a vector is pointing, for example, somewhere, which is, this could be A, B, and C, if these are its coordinates, then you have that, if you have this number, then you can create a vector from origin to this point, right? And let's say if I have another vector pointing somewhere here, which is like D, E, and F, you have these two vectors, and you can see like how far they are. You can mathematically figure out, right? What is their distance, over X axis, Y axis, y-axis, z-axis, all of that. The idea with vector embeddings is sort of similar. What we do is that we take this sentence and we take these tokens and we create vector embeddings of the tokens. So what it effectively means, if we just consider the words as dog as a token, for example, and a cat as token, right? And an animal as token. And let's give it another word. Let's say, JavaScript, for example. So what's going to happen is that when you start to plot these on this vector space, like dog would be somewhere on this, cat would be somewhere here, animal would be somewhere here, and JavaScript would be somewhere far away, right? The way this works is that vector space is created in such a way where identical things would be somewhat together, right? And even the operations on top of them. For example, if you add like a vector of dog plus cat, it will still point somewhere closer to animal, right? Not closer to JavaScript. But if we add programming, for example, in the same area, this would be near JavaScript, right? So it basically what it is doing, it's allowing us to create semantic meaning to what the tokens that we had over here. But this is still not enough because there is a lot of missing information over here in terms of predicting the next token, right? Because once you have pointed it out in the space, it also is important that what the sentence was saying. For example, let's say if I have this sentence, I hate dogs. Which animal should I buy? Let's say this is one sentence. And the second sentence is, I don't hate dogs, right? Which animals should I buy? You see, these sentences are basically identical except for a single word, but these are opposite sentences because of just a single word, right? And if you're just doing, a vector embedding in the space and you're trying to predict just the next token based on this, it will not be very useful because you'll end up predicting the wrong thing, because this don't keyword should have a lot of attention to it. It should have a lot of emphasis because this changes the whole sentence, right? So this is where the next part of the equation comes into picture. Once you have done vector embeddings, what you do is you pass this into something we call as a transformer. Now this is what the paper that you would have seen, attention is all you need, right? A very popular paper from Google in 2017, which is basically the core of this. So what it does is that it enriches these vectors. Once you have created these vectors, it enriches them with meaning. So this basically what we are seeing here, this transformer is probably the most important part of a large language model, right? You cannot do anything meaningful if you take away transformer. This is the heart of the thing. Obviously, everything else is also required in the due process, but this is what does the heavy lifting, and this is what is probably the most compute intensive task in predicting or in doing the work that you have asked the LLM to. So basically, I would not get into like core math and fundamentals of how this works because that is beyond the scope of the video also. But what this does is basically it enriches the existing vectors that you have with meaning, right? So this is the layer where this don't actually becomes super important, and it's able to align the vectors in the space in such a way that it actually makes it possible for the computer to understand that the don't means that you don't hate dogs. You actually like them in the first place. Now what the transformer does basically is that it will produce a vector for, like I mentioned, these are two sentences and each of them would be broken down in a bunch of tokens, right? Which are then mapped over here in the vector embedding space, and then we run the transformer and it'll, enrich the vectors, right? So what it does is that now the LLM that you see generally is just, if you add this sentence, it'll just start to spit out that, okay, if you don't like dogs, this is what you should do. But this is not what is fed to an LLM. What is fed to an LLM is something like this. This is a conversation between two people, blah, 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 which is the system prompt. Then your messages and the LLM messages are fed in order, right? So it will be like user says this, then AI says this, and then user says this sentence, whatever this is, and then AI says what? This is what LLM is given, right? So LLM actually starts to answer from this point. But in your UI, which is like a nice fancy UI that you see, you only see this sentence, right? So don't be confused that, you are actually talking to a computer or talking to an LLM. It has been made conversational in a way. It has been designed to be conversational. A raw base model. A base model is something that you just get out of just pre-training and post-training, which is just a raw model. Pre-training, which is just a raw model. That base model is nothing like this. It will not be conversational, right? So it has to be done, additional work has to be done to make it conversational. But this is what most LLM models look like under the hood. So what this transformer does is that at this point, as the conversation is going, like let's say the conversation starts here, it will create a vector for each position, right? But what we want is we want this vector only, because the rest of the stuff we already have. We only want this one because this is where we have to figure out what is the next token, right? What is the next token supposed to be? So what it does over here is that it does not just give you a single word that this is, hey, should be the word, or okay, I understand, or you are absolutely right, or whatever. What an LLM, what a transformer does is that it would give you a sequence of tokens. Like it will give you all the tokens in its vocabulary, right? Remember this thing we talked about right here over tokenizer and vocabulary? I think like you should watch this video if you have made it so far. Just watch it after this video if you want. But the concept of vocabulary vocabulary inside a tokenizer exists because these numbers point to specific tokens, right? So what an LLM would do is that it will create every single token every single time, right? It will have this 1122, it'll have, probably some more tokens over here. It will have basically this whole list of all the tokens in its vocabulary, not even missing out a single one. And every single token will have a probability assigned to it that which one is more likely to be the next token, right? So it could be something like this on these lines, right? This one is 10% likely, this one is 25% likely, and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, you don't want to pick something which is completely gibberish or random, which has a low probability. That's why you will probably stick with something which is in the, in the higher range of token probability. So you don't want something which is very least probabilistic, because then the output would be gibberish. But you also don't want the most probabilistic number every single time, because that would make your output too deterministic, right? So it will be just, for every time you talk to it, it will just output the same thing, which is what, I don't know how many of you have seen, but which is what this temperature parameter is in APIs, right? If you're using an LLM over API, you will see that there is a parameter called as temperature. So if you lower the temperature, it basically makes it more guided towards using the tokens which have higher probability of being the next token. And the higher the temperature, the more variation it can create, right? So there are a bunch of more parameters you can customize to play along with this. But the idea is that once you are at this layer, you already have your next token. You just have to pick it. Now, as you're building these applications, you will try different temperatures, you will try different configurations, you will use various models to test which one works the best for your students, for your customers, for your consumers. And the reason you do that is because you realize that testing is one of the integral parts of software development. And this is where today's sponsor, Test Sprite, also comes into picture. Test Sprite is built for modern coders like yourself, which is an AI agent that builds, generates, runs, and presents you all the tests that you can possibly imagine in your code base. They have an MCP server that you can use within your IDE of your choice, whether that's Cursor or VS Code or any other IDE, and they run all of your end-to-end tests in the cloud and present you with a nice dashboard showing you what exactly went wrong in your test suite. This allows you to not only code 10x faster with these new models, but also reliably ship to production 10x faster, which is the ultimate metric to aim for, right? Test Sprite comes with a generous free tier alongside a starter plan, which is free for the first month. So do check them out. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. Thanks to Test Sprite for sponsoring this segment of the video. And now back to the video. So now that we know the importance of testing, let's take a look at what happens next as you change these parameters, these temperatures and stuff, and what would be the next thing in question. So now, once you have figured out that, okay, let's say you want this 1122 as the token, right? This is your next token. Now we take this token, we go back to the initial sequence, we obviously decode this token, right? So we have the encoder over here in the tokenizer, and we also have the decoder. So we'll take a look at what this 1122 is, and we'll add it over here. And this would say just a single word. Okay, let's say. Okay is what 1122 is. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to keep doing this. So you have the same sequence again, right? This message. You will take this message and you would feed it back inside this whole thing again. You'll obviously not, tokenize and stuff, but you will feed it back into transformer. It will enrich it. It will give you a sequence, and it will keep on doing this. So then there would be probably a comma, which is what the LLM is trained to say. And then it'll start to say something like, maybe, for example, is the next token, you should consider getting a cat. So this is obviously, all of this is getting into chunks. So first this chunk comes, then for example, this chunk comes, which is in the next iteration of the cycle, right? Then this chunk, then this chunk. That is why you would have seen, like, in the early raw days of ChatGPT, when you used to give a message, it would send down a token as it is streaming, right? And a lot of times it will be broken, right? It's not actually broken word. It's just that the token itself is not something which is, a complete word in the first place. Now, there are ways to optimize this, because you would be seeing that, if you're rerunning this transformer thing again and again on top of itself, this is extremely wasteful, right? Because if you keep on running this whole thing, it will be very wasteful, because you are doing a lot of repeated work, things that you have already done in a way, right? So there are things like KV cache for, you can literally cache the result of the work that transformer and your vector embedding space has done to a certain extent on the expense of using a lot of GPU memory, right? So there are trade-offs for speed versus memory, but this makes it possible for us to have sort of like an experience where, we get response very speedily from the LLM. And this whole thing is an active area of research also, right? So this is something which frontier labs and open source, labs like DeepSeek and other Chinese labs are working continuously day and night. Like, how do we make optimizations around this architecture so that this can be faster, cheaper, better, more efficient to run? Last year, when DeepSeek dropped an R1 paper, DeepSeek R1 open source paper, that included a lot of small optimizations that DeepSeek was able to do to not only get better output, but also reduce costs, which frontier labs were not doing at the time. So again, this is where, things sort of end. This is the present, like where we are right now. And of course, as the future evolves, I'll keep updating you guys on how things are working out. But this all in all is a journey of how an LLM works internally, right? So it's all a probabilistic, a statistical thing where you are just predicting the next token. This transformer is something that you train when you are building, an LLM from scratch. So when Opus 4.6 training is happening, what you're effectively training is this transformer piece, right? And, this vector embedding piece as well, which figures out like how do you, plot a specific token inside the vector space. So these two things are sort of trained together in a way. Similarly with tokenizer as well, you also have to train a tokenizer, like how do you split and how do you join the tokenized numbers together? So how do you take it from here to here and here to here, right? So these two are also sort of linked with an LLM of your choice. There is no universal tokenizer. It depends on the LLM that you're choosing, and they have their own tokenizers. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this, and this is just touching the surface of things. Obviously, there's a lot of research and material and stuff that you can cover if you go inside these individual pieces. But do check out this vector embeddings and this tokenizer video that I had created, which was a very in-depth thing, and I am very sad to see that it did not get a lot of attention and love that people want, the technical folks want. And I agree, like it's just partly algorithm because you guys are not liking the video, commenting down, even if I say so many times. So make sure you do that on this video and the video that is the tokenizer one. That's all for this one, and I will see you in the next video very soon. If you're still watching, make sure you leave a comment, "I watched till the end" below to tell me that you were still here, and let me know what do you think about the video.